Welcome, everybody. We're doing a bit of a special edition today. We're going to talk about some of the issues that are going on in the world right now. And with the majority of businesses closed and all of us dealing with this COVID-19 virus pandemic, there are a lot of questions and uncertainty surrounding real estate investing. So today we have author and real estate coach Quentin D'Souza here with us to help clear things up a little bit for everyone. So thanks for joining us, Quentin.
Hey, yeah, no problem. Happy to help. I just want to let people know that I'm a full-time investor, and I've been doing it since 2014 full-time. I was a teacher for 20 years before that, and I'm not a realtor or a mortgage broker, or I don't own a property management company. We have our own internal property management company that deals with our rentals, but just not we don't hire out to other people. So just so everybody's aware of that. I don't want people to get in any misconceptions. But yeah, I appreciate you inviting me here, and I think that there's a lot going on for everybody, and we're recording this April 1st, and this is kind of like D-Day, right, for a lot of real estate investors, landlords. I had people, text me saying, watch out, good luck today, and all this other stuff, which is I think par for the course when it comes to rentals, anyways. But this is an interesting time for sure.
Yeah, I was just telling Sandy before you came on that, most of my tenants, there are a few that have said that they have a problem, but they've still sent some money, not all of it, but the majority of them have actually, and it's what? It's 11, 10:30, 10:15 in the morning on April 1st. And a lot of my tenants have already paid their full rent. So I was a little bit worried as well, especially with the whole rally going on all the social media telling people not to pay their rent. I wasn't exactly sure how that's supposed to work out, but I don't know. It's very interesting times for sure. So you gave us, Quentin, a little bit of a background on yourself. Maybe you just want to expand on that a bit for us, just so, anyone that's listened to the show obviously probably has heard you before. I think this is your fourth time on.
Rob, I was gonna say, I think
Yeah.
was he not our first or second episode ever? Second, maybe.
Well,
first guest, yeah. So yeah, we've definitely a lifelong or a 6+ year friend of the show.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I appreciate that. Thanks, guys. And yeah, I mean, I've been doing this for a while. I've got a number of books on Amazon, the Property Management Toolbox, Filling Vacancies Toolbox, The Ultimate Wealth Strategy, Run Durham REI. But I think, for now, what's happening, I think, especially what you talked about with non-payment of rent issues, I think a majority of tenants are good people and they're going to pay their rent. Like, it's just like the majority of Canadians are going to do whatever they can to pay their mortgages. It's just that, we're in a unique situation that has changed things for a lot of people. And, as investors and landlords, we just want to be cognizant of that and make sure that we're, have sympathy and work with people where they need help. I'm not saying to defer rent. I'm just saying that, we need to work with them to create, if it's a payment plan, but know that rent is still due. And whenever the banks say that, there's a deferral or property taxes, that you defer it, the thing is, it's a deferral. It doesn't mean that it's disappeared. It means you still owe it. And that has to be clear, and people need to be aware of that all of these costs are still there. It's not that they've disappeared. They just deferred it so that we can, take stock of what's going on right now. And, there's a lot of confusion around deferrals as well. And the challenge is that nobody really knows. Everybody is making assumptions around what will and what won't happen. If you go and talk to the banks and you ask them, will like deferring my mortgage for 6 months, will it affect my ability to lend afterwards? Because if you're an investor and you want to continue to invest after all of this, you're going to want to make sure that you're in a position to do so. And if you have, if there's something that's marked financial hardship or whatever it is, on your credit record, it's very possible that that will affect your ability to lend. Now, if you talk to anybody in the bank, their response is usually that this is not going to go on your credit record, that this is a unique situation. They usually use terms like unprecedented and things like that. And but the challenge is that we really don't know what's going to happen on April 1st. It could be that, that although they're saying one thing, that there's an automated process and it hasn't been updated and it goes to your credit record. It's very possible. So the thing is that we don't know. What I do know is that we are going to have a large number, that large number, if you're used to like, maybe 3% of people not paying, it could be that you're up to 12% of people not paying, right? I tend to overestimate in order to make sure that I'm prepared. So I look at a 20% non-payment. And then what I'm looking at from, if I'm going to take a deferral, I want to do something that's going to, not impact me. So some financial institutions are allowing you to do interest-only payments, which still allows you to continue with your payment history, but it allows you to do interest-only payments, and that's on the commercial side. That they would allow that, not necessarily the residential side. I would say that, you should see where your situation is coming April 1st. But I also think that April 1st is going to be the easy date. I think people are thinking that that's the hard date. I think the hard date is going to be May 1st, right? Or June 1st. Now, it's very possible that, if you can educate your tenants and let them know, look, these are the programs that are available to you right now. Some tenants aren't aware that, like, if childcare responsibilities have changed and a person can't go to work because of that, that there's that emergency benefit that's available to them. And as a good landlord, you want to give tenants all the information they can. So, these are the municipal programs. These are the provincial programs that are available. These are the federal programs that are available. Heck, these are the utility companies, and these are the ones that won't charge you for late utility payments, all of that stuff. So I think if we can communicate to them what's available to them, it'll make May 1st, a lot easier for a lot of landlords. So that's the one thing that I'm, when we were talking about tenants and non-payment, and that, if you think about Harley Davidson drivers, there's often one of the, I think it's called the 1%ers, right? And those are really like the troublemakers, the guys that you don't want to mess with at all, right? But 99% of the bikers are just great people. They're good people, and you don't base, your thought pattern on the 1%ers. And it's the same thing with, those tenant not paying, that's like, I would associate that with price gouging, right? Like somebody who has toilet paper that they bought for $1 and now they're trying to sell it for $20, right? It's the same thing. You're trying to gouge somebody who's in a position who can't, do anything. And, it's very, I think that the landlord tenant board and anybody who's sane would look at these people and say, this is ridiculous, right? You're really just gouging your landlord. And if you think that's right, then you obviously have some, you're probably the same person who, hoards toilet paper and, sells it for $30 a roll. So,
Right.
Sorry, it was a bit of a rant there. I admit I'm a little passionate.
Well, now, like, what is the process? Like, is there a change at the landlord tenant board as far as like the process for, someone doesn't pay their rent? What kind of a situation are you in right now? What do we do about that?
Just so you know, like I'm not a paralegal, but I can tell you what I'm doing as a business owner is that I'm following through the process as it has been set out by the landlord tenant board, and I will still file my L1s, L2s, and I will still go through the process. The thing is, it's going to take a long time. We all know
Sure.
that already. Like I had a non-payment of rent issue that was supposed to be heard on the 16th of March, and I had started the process in November. So it was already 5.5 months behind. So you think that after this, there's going to be a quick catch up? I don't think so. The problem is already there, but that doesn't mean that I'm not going to follow the process that's already set out. I may not go through the process as fast, but I'm still going to go through the process. I have my N4s going out on the 2nd of the month. We will talk to the tenants first. We want to work with them to help them come up with a plan that makes sense. Maybe it's 75%, on the first and 25%, 2 weeks down, whatever it is. We're not evil, but we also need to make sure that the house and the apartment is still going to be there afterwards, that we're not going to, that it's not going to disappear, right? And we want to provide good housing to people, right? So that's definitely,
So,
something.
sorry, just to clarify then,
Yeah.
the way that you're doing it is you're talking to the tenant,
Mhm.
like you're doing a verbal discussion with them. And then based on that, you would still file like in Ontario, it's an N4 the second day. It basically quote unquote, I guess, starts the eviction process
Yep.
if they don't pay the rent by a certain time.
Yep.
But so you would outline that payment plan right on the N4. Is that what you would do?
No, I would do the N4 should be a clean document by itself, but I would include discussion back and forth, and a separate document that I use is just a simple payment plan document. You can get a sample one on the landlord tenant board website. They have a payment plan document that's there. I have something that's very similar, and all we're doing is working out a payment plan for the tenant. In order to get them on track. So I'm not calling it a deferral because there is no deferral. Rent is still due, but I'm calling it a payment plan because I really want to work with people. I think one of the things that we're not seeing here, and I like to try to think outside the box, is more than just this non-payment, is going to be filling vacancies. And people who give notice, because they're good, like we have lots of great tenants, and if they can't pay, they may want to just give notice instead of not paying, and which is not necessarily a bad thing because they want to be responsible. But for us, it will be very challenging to fill those units in the next little while because of the different types of processes that are out there. Now, that means that you have to adapt. Like it's not going to be as easy to do showings of properties. So that means, you'd have to look at virtual showings. You'd have to look at lock boxes. You'd have to look at, different, vacant units instead of ones with tenants in it. And you'll have tenants that don't want to have showings or have a process, right? So there's going to be lots of changes that will need to go on. But I think the vacancies are going to be the interesting challenge. I was talking to a friend of mine the other day, and she was saying that it was like it's like placing tenants in December and January, where you get like the B tenants looking for the A properties, right? And that's kind of like what we're seeing right now with those people who are looking at this time. At least that's what we're finding in the last week. Now, if you asked me the same question 2 weeks ago or 3 weeks ago, I would have given you a different answer. But it's almost like it's changing like day by day. It's kind of, even the market is changing day by day when it comes to, buying and selling and all of that. So.
Yeah, those are some great points, and especially I totally agree about May being probably the the most impacted, unless we get to June maybe too. But May is going to be a big telling May 1st around that time, because April 6th, right? There are some relief. Some money's coming into the available to people that are affected. The CERB application, I believe you can start on the 6th of April, so that might not be available to people till the 15th, 16th, 17th, in that range. So I think if people really are affected, maybe by mid-month they can get back into paying some if they get relief from that, I think. But that'll just really filter down the road to May, and then people that are actually feeling some hardship will probably be impacted most. A lot of people have rent money. I don't think a lot of people have lost jobs up until just the last 2 weeks, really, right? Or been impacted really greatly until the last couple of weeks. So they probably had money there for this month. It's just, May is gonna be tough.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I agree. And you know what? I think that one thing I want to say, and I'm going to soapbox just a little bit, is that it's great for the Prime Minister and the Premier to promise, nobody's going to be evicted, and I totally understand the reasoning why, because we don't want to spread the virus. I understand that. But it's almost like if you were a grocery store owner and you were told you must give away all your groceries, like, okay. So what happens to me as the owner of the grocery store? I understand that all these bills are being deferred, but it doesn't mean that they're not being due. So it just means that the process is going to be extended out. So what I would have suggested, to those politicians who are making promises for other people to fulfill for them, is that they have a process in place where they can pay those people directly. If you're telling them that, rents are not due, or they are due, or, please pay as much as you can, then let's do like a rent supplement or something where the people that are out there that need help, the landlord can apply to like the province or the federal government to pay for the rent on their behalf. Like, have some sort of process in place, like
I believe it should be the tenants really going out and trying to figure that out, not the landlord's job to run around and do it on behalf of all their tenants as well. I mean, if they're going to implement something like that, which they very well could, I can see something like that coming into play, but it should be the responsibility of the tenant to make sure that they have applied for that process and then in turn use the money to pay the rent. You don't hear them saying, you know what, everyone who has a mortgage, don't worry about paying your mortgage. Like that's not being spread around, saying take the necessary steps, do what you can to defer it if that's what you want to do, if you're having hardships. But nobody's like, I agree with you. It's a ridiculous state of affairs where people get up, or where our government is telling people not to pay their rent.
Yeah, it's making promises on somebody else's pocket, which is what bothers me. And in some provinces, they've worked to do something different. Like in BC, they have $500 rent supplement that's going to help to pay directly to the landlord. Obviously in Ontario we don't have something like that. But, I'm hoping that there will be some changes, in the future where, one person's livelihood isn't, put at risk because of somebody else's livelihood. Right. And so that really is always a challenge, I guess, with government. I don't want to blame anybody here, but I think it's a challenge. I just don't think enough solutions are coming out. And enough is being done to, I think the Premier had mentioned that, if you were a price gouger, that they're going to charge you $100,000. Well, okay, that's fine. Well, what about these rent strike people? Like, they're the same thing. Why don't you find them? I think sometimes you're pandering for votes, right? but also you have to, at the same time, you have to balance, who is helping you to do the things that you're promising. So I would have a little, warning to those politicians to be careful, because, there are, if you, the people who are investing with you in it here can easily go and invest in a different province or a different country. It's not that they are stuck or that they have to do one thing. And it's really easy to drive people out of a particular business. There is profit to be made in other places too, so you have to balance that out. And that's always a challenge. I get it. Like, unemployment is going to go through the roof. And we all know this. As Canadians, we are very good at making sure that we pay our mortgage and pay our rent. But, with that type of unemployment, there are going to be some shocks to the system, and we all need to help to prepare for that, right? So it's just something to keep in mind.
Great points, Quentin. Let's transition a bit to the. How are you looking at the market right now? And are you still buying properties? Are you putting things on hold, like personally in your business from that sense, or what are your thoughts around the market and just activities as an investor buying properties? What are some things people should think about?
Yeah, I mean, the challenge that I'm seeing right now is more from the whether let's say if I'm listing a property and I want to put it up for sale. The challenge is that we have procedures now where it's difficult. Well, you can't do open houses really, because you can't have groups of more than 5 people together anyways. I'm sure that I'm not a realtor, but I'm sure the realtor associations have said something around those lines about open houses and showings and things. So I know that the numbers are going to be going down. The people who are going to be buying are probably going to be people that need to buy rather than, want to buy. And so that's going to affect the number of multiple offers, I would think, that would happen. But as long as their supply decreases and there's still the demand, we're still, going to keep our prices to where they are or within a specific range. Now, this continues for 2, 3, 4 months, like all bets are off, right? But right now in the market, I have seen some slight decreases in prices in the type of properties that I've been looking at. Not much, like maybe 3 to 5%. And now in the last week, I've seen properties just sit where you would have had multiple offers on them already. And so 2 weeks ago, we were having multiple offers. And then now I'm finding that sometimes we're seeing some properties that are sitting. So as an investor, what I am looking for is opportunity to help somebody out of a particular situation. I am still looking to be able to close on properties. What I fear most is banks stop lending, because our economy has a lot to do with credit growth. And if banks stop lending, I think that's going to be a real challenge. And although we have, everybody keeps saying that we're open for business, I'm starting to hear different things in different spaces. Like, one of the big banks said that they're not doing any more commercial loans. Well, holy cow, that's a big deal, right? That thing, like those type of statements and those type of things, and I don't want to say the bank, but like when I hear that from other investors, that makes me kind of like watch out. So, when during the good times, and we've been talking about this at Durham REI for a while, is make sure that you're building up lines of credit, that you're getting the ability to borrow privately, that you are able to put yourself in the position with joint venture partners so that you can continue to purchase properties. I think that if you can find an opportunity and you're willing to extend out the period of time that it'll take you to take advantage of the opportunity, then I think you're going to do well in the long term. This isn't stocks, Okay. Don't treat it like, you know, your stocks, you're selling it one day and buying it the other. That's not the idea. Like I see this as a long-term play. And if you get something that will cash flow well, and that that you can do well with and hold for 5-10 years, I think you'll be in a good position to purchase now. You probably will have an opportunity, because when we get back out of this, I don't know if we're going to have the same opportunity to purchase properties at these prices, right? You know, I think at the beginning of 2017, I saw that as an opportunity, and I was buying properties hard, you know, from 2017 until the end of 2018. And then as we get into 2019, I was thinking, holy cow, we're getting up there in price, right? We're seeing duplexes up in 650, 700 range, kind of crazy. And so in the Oshawa area, like turnkey finished stuff, which stops, you know, it becomes very hard numbers wise to make sense. So, you know, we could have a little bit of a reprieve right now. The only challenge I find is like dealing with like inspections, trying to get inspections done, trying to get like pictures done, trying to get like, you know, your drafting done, dealing with the towns and municipalities in order to get like inspections done for you know, like building inspections, that sort of thing. Everything is delayed, right? And finding trades who are going to work, like you know, it's all a real challenge. I find that it's, you know, it's easier to get a trade to work in a vacant property than it is to get into another property. And although they're considered essential services, it's still a challenge, I find, to get them out. I don't know if you guys are finding the same thing, but I think that there's some challenges there for sure.
Well, I mean, some municipalities, like with the city offices closed in most areas, like I just did a couple days ago, submit for building permits online and went through that process. So I think I was probably one of the first ones that did it since they started taking them that way. But you know, it's good that they at least are doing that. Now, when it comes to, you know, inspections and things like that, I don't know how they're going to go when people actually have to be out on site. So we'll see. But I wanted to ask you quickly, Sandy. So what are you seeing people still purchasing, and what kind of measures are you guys doing in order to, like, when you have listings, what kind of things have changed?
Sure. Yeah. If tying on to what Quentin's said all there, I mean, as a realtor's perspective, I guess, Rob, we can both probably speak to that. I think the virtual everything is required, because there are still people that need to buy and sell. Like, that's not going away. The people that bought or that sold maybe their personal house last month or bought a new house, they're still there, at least for now. I think that'll filter start to go away as we get into this longer, but so there's still business there to happen to deal with. So virtual everything, virtual showings, virtual consultations, virtual everything as much as we can. And then I think from the investor group, you know, it's a really, really, really easy, I guess I call it an excuse for lack of a better word, but it's really easy out to kind of just put everything on hold. I think that's any novice or intermediate investors that I've talked to are pretty much wanting to just wait this out and see what happens, regardless if it's a great deal for them or not, and fits their plan. So I think more the savvier group is you know, at any time they're having a longer term outlook on things, and they're willing to take action on a deal that makes sense for them. Just being cognizant that everything's going to take longer. We've had a lot of clients that do the burst strategy, right? So that's something interesting too. Now people are talking about, okay, even if it makes sense today, what does the refinance part look like 6-12 months down the road? And are there going to be any comparables, you know, especially in the residential world, right? A lot of that refinance amount is depending on comparables. So what does that comparable look like? Are there people buying, you know, high end, you know, duplexes at 650 or 700 6 months from now? Is there any comparables out there to show that that's what the value is when you go to refinance? So that's an interesting conversation that we don't really know the answer to, but I think it's something that people need to be aware of for sure. And
Yeah, and
just,
I feel like I heard somewhere, I can't remember where, that they're actually sticking really, really firmly to the 3-month time period, the 90-day for comparables for
and they
refund.
might, maybe that'll change though, right? Maybe they'll have to change that if there's not many transactions happening.
Mm,
Who knows?
I guess we'll see, huh? Yeah. One of the last questions we got for you, Quentin, is it's a big one. What do you think we have in store? Like, what are we looking at as far as the economy goes?
Oh man, you just like the bomb, and then you're asking me for the crystal ball at the same time. Okay,
This is just
yeah.
opinion, everybody.
You know what? I've been asking investors across the country to like exactly how they're feeling, and you know, some guys with $300 million portfolios and some guys with $3 million portfolios, and there's a wide range of um, a wide range of consideration when it comes to what they're thinking of. For some people, it's a 3-month window that's really all the shocks are going to happen, but then extended out to 18 months to get back to where we were. So although we'll have lots of shocks over the first 3 months, it'll take us a while to get back, because you have a lot of employees that come from small business owners, and the small business owners who haven't been able to stay on top of what they're doing, that's going to be quite a challenge. Unemployment already has jumped. I remember at that first week, there was almost like 250 million or something like that across Canada that hopped onto the unemployment site and started to fill that out. We know that this is something that's temporary. We don't know how long it's going to take for everybody to get back to full employment. It's one thing to say it, it's another thing to actually come through. I've had lots of conversations with small business owners who overnight took a multi-million-dollar business and had to shut it down because they just don't have enough income to take them through more than 60 to 90 days. Laying off a lot of their staff. So there's definitely a lot of challenges going through. I think one of the things that everybody has to remember is that the US in particular, but Canada as well, is printing a heck of a lot of money. And when you print that much money, we know that what they're trying to do is when they're doing that, they're basically saying we know that there's going to be deflation, right? And the way that we're going to prevent deflation is print money and make money available. Now, the challenge is going to be that banks still need to lend in order for that to happen. So, but we know in the long term that our hard assets are going to do well. That's why we're long-term investors. We're not like we don't trade a house today and sell it tomorrow. At least that's the way I like to picture it. Even if you're doing that, you're taking some of those funds and you're putting it, for the long term somewhere. So over time, we're going to see interest rates go down. Right now, they've popped up because the demand for money really is gone up, and we've seen some in the long-term rates. 5-year rates go up, but they will come down. They will stabilize and come down. And when they come down, we will see house prices go up again. That's why I'm saying that, and exactly what Sandy said, like we'll call them the more experienced investors are the ones who are looking at this as an opportunity, because they know in the long term we're going to see those house prices come back. The challenge is going to be, how long this lasts for, what's unemployment going to be like, and we are going to see a change in vacancy rates and a lot of different things, just because the challenge is that placing tenants and the process of who's moving and who's not moving. I think it's going to be a bit of a challenge. So it's something that we haven't seen in a long time. Actually, we probably have never seen, but it's just a guess. But I think that vacancy is definitely going to go up for the not because there's not a demand, but more because there's not a lot of movement right now. I think that the demand is still there. And once we get that okay to start moving around again, I think it's going to be whoop, come back up like a vacuum. And then all of a sudden we get like, you know, the vacancy goes, you know, back down. But we have to be able to, you know, sustain that, you know, this period of time, right? It's a time to circle your wagons. It's a time to get lean. It's a time to, like, you know, I contacted, like, the things that I not that I don't care about, but like I deferred all my property taxes, right? Because I could, you know, for 2 months. It doesn't mean that I don't have to pay it. It just means that it's going to be spread out. Instead of paying for May and April and May and June, I'm going to be paying those 3 months between July and December, or July and November, depending on where it is. So it just to get lean over the next couple months, and then see where we are, and then that'll help to get you to get through the next, you know, 12 months after that.
Any
I
other
think that makes
questions?
sense, because I think I think being careful with it, extra careful more than you would normally be, just because you never know where you're at 2 months down the road and where this is at, and what kind of cash reserves you might need for certain things, right? Without, you know, doing your best to not, you know, to be a good citizen, be a good, you know, with the small businesses and stuff, still supporting them. And it's a tough little kind of thing to navigate, right? There's so many different things at stake here. But I was going to ask, just to finish it off, what would be, and maybe you answered it already there with your last comment there, but what is one thing that an investor or landlord should do? What would be the most important thing they should do today or the next month to kind of be comfortable with what's coming or what's happening right now?
Yeah, prepare. Don't get blindsided by the communication that's going to be happening at the beginning of the month, first of all. So make sure that you have template letters, conversations. You can call the tenants, look at the tenants profile that you have. You're going to know which ones who are late and who are, you know, who have trouble paying anyways. Those are the first ones that you should contact directly to try to head off what's going to happen. Come up with a plan, like, this is what I'll do if this happens, this is what I'll do if this happens. Get lean. So if you have to defer, like, make sure that there's a reason why you're deferring. There's actually like a financial reason why you're deferring. But then that's an option. Look at deferring your property taxes. You know, there are utility payments that you can defer now as well. I know that they're eliminating, like, late charges and interest charges and on a lot of utility payments. Got to look at the, you know, the different utility companies for that information. Well, you know, and I mean, I've tried to put everything together for Durham REI, but I'm sure that there are other organizations that are doing the same thing in other places. Just try to put everything together so that, you know, you can take advantage of it as best as you can. And you know, hopefully you'll be able to get some access to some extra cash. I know it's not an opportune time, but one of the things that I was able to do recently is I talked to Scotiabank, and I had a little bit of extra equity in 5 properties. And if you have over 20,000, they allow you to access it as a secured line of credit. So all of a sudden I got access to an extra 100K. So I was like, all right, sounds good. I'll take it. Right. So making sure that you have access to those funds, and, you know, if you haven't done that already, you know, get lean and just prepare, you know, for the next little while. But do not take your foot off the gas. Okay. If this is a long-term game, don't be fearful, right? Just be sure in what you want to do. Model other people who have done it before and have been successful. This is the challenge with, like, media and everything that's out there. There are so many people giving advice, and they, like, you go into Facebook and there's 1,000 people telling you to do 10,000 different things. Follow people who have done it before and who now, this is an unprecedented situation, but going through different economic cycles is not. So follow people who have and model their you know, what they're doing in order to get through this. Okay. And that'll really help you to, you know, get, you know, whoever it is, it doesn't matter who it is, model the people that you believe will get through this situation, who have the experience to do it. And that should, you know, help. Hopefully there's enough in there to, you know, help you. But
I think that's
Oh,
amazing advice.
absolutely. Yeah,
Yeah.
thank you.
I was going to
Um,
ask, I know you're going to get to it, Rob, with how to contact him and all that. Well, I was going to say your next Durham REI meeting, we're going to expedite this show and get it out really as quick as we can. So I think, is that next meeting going to happen? I know we talked briefly on how you're pivoting a bit with the style of it, but is that happening? Can we let our listeners know about that perhaps, or about a way they can get in on that?
I'll make it happen. I got no problem with making things happen. I'm not a person that takes no very easily or, you know, lightly. So I will make it happen.
Because that is April. I was just looking up. Is it April 8th? Is that the
April
next?
8th. Yep.
So it'll be an online version, I'm assuming, of some sort?
It'll be a virtual version of some sort. And I want to make sure that there's a networking component to it as well. So it will be interesting and a little bit unmanageable, but it'll be fun for sure.
Is it, you know, how people can actually go and find out info about that? Or is it durhamrei.com? Is that the best resource?
Yeah, that's right. So if they go into durhamrei.com and they can sign up for a newsletter, or they can check out the events tab and find out how we're going to do that one. I'm working on the platform, but it'll be fun for sure. It always is.
Okay, well, thank you very much, Quentin. You have helped us a lot, and I know there's so much more to this than what we've gotten into today, and there's not really any cut and dry answers, but thanks for helping us make the water a little less muddy, I guess.
Oh, no problem. Thank you, guys.
Yeah, I really appreciate it. Thanks a lot, Quentin.
Okay, thanks, Quentin.
Amazing. You're doing so well, guys. I really love seeing your progress. It's awesome.
Thank you. You too.
Absolutely. And good
Always
luck with the
impressed.
event and everything else to come. I think will be interesting times, but we'll fight through it and be better for it once we get past this.
Yeah, I hope to see you guys all in person again one day. And until then, we'll carry on like this. See you on the 8th. Thank you.